If you've been attending services for the past 2 months, you know that our topic has been spiritual mind treatment. And I've been describing spiritual mind treatment as a form of positively framed meditation that has quite a lot in common with prayer, but also has some significant differences. Now, if you're just joining us, or if you want to catch up, we've got free content on our website where you can review all the past messages of this month and the previous month. And I think it's helpful to do that because each week we're adding to the conversation from the previous Sunday's messages. So without the previous week's information, questions might rise up in you that quite likely we've answered in a previous week's message. For example, I've been talking about some common misconceptions about spiritual mind treatment. And by the way, thank you for all of the messages and emails that I've been receiving from people with questions and appreciation for going in depth into this. It's nice to know somebody's listening. So I appreciate that very much. And if the topic today gets a little bit complicated in the message, keep in mind that you can always go back and review it. The video will come out very soon, tomorrow or the next day, and the audio is available immediately after the service in the bookstore. So you can review that in your own time. And if you're loving what you're learning and you want some more, keep in mind that January, when Reverend Joyce DeFowler is going to be teaching the basic ideas of science of mind, a new course that deals with this topic of spiritual mind treatment in particular. I bumped into one of our long-time members of the center signing up for the introductory course. I said, haven't you taken all of these classes already? And he said, yeah, well, I actually sign up for the basic class every other year, whether I need it or not. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, it's not that I don't know the information. It's what is revealed in the discussion among the people that really helps me fine-tune my understanding. And I thought that's true. You know, it's in the people who show up that the learning takes place. And we do have discounts and scholarships for people who are repeating classes, so keep that in mind. And we're also starting to explore a new hybrid version of our education, in class simultaneous with online. Like, for example, the class circulation that's coming up in October, where we will be discussing the spirituality behind prosperity and abundance and circulation. And the goal for it being online is so that people beyond our city and beyond our county, and also our radio listening audience, can join us from the comfort of their homes, you too if you desire, and really feel the excitement that we feel when we're studying spiritual principles. Now, last time I was with you, I ended with a cliffhanger. Now, let me explain how we got there. You see, we'd been talking about spiritual mind treatment and how spiritual mind treatment is very important to this particular tradition, Centers for Spiritual Living. Indeed, it is one of the pillars, one of the 5 pillars of our tradition. It's one of the things we do. That's what we do. If you hang around here long enough, you'll know that's what we do. In fact, I would say spiritual mind treatment becomes, if you call yourself a religious scientist, it becomes your first response to life's issues. It's how we make sense of this world. It's what we do. It's our thing. That's our thing. If you think Centers for Spiritual Living, one of the things that should come into your awareness is spiritual mind treatment. We also talked about how it's a system that anyone can learn. In other words, it's not reserved for the clergy or the enlightened or the special few who have spiritual power. No, indeed, I would say that our goal in spiritual education is to teach everyone to do their own spiritual mind treatment for themselves. Indeed, we should not think that someone else's spiritual mind treatment is more powerful than our own. We also mentioned how important it is to not get all tripped up on the steps, the form of spiritual mind treatment. Look, anything that's worth learning probably needs some patience and some practice. On the other hand, the feeling and the understanding in spiritual mind treatment is far more important than any particular form. It's got to be real for you. It's got to be personal. You've got to understand what it's got to make sense to you in order for it to work. We also talked about how the 5 steps that are in, at least 5 steps, the 5 steps that are in spiritual mind treatment, they represent a logical progression of thought. We really are treating our own mind when we use this form of meditation. We're leading our own thinking from this to this to this until we have a realization. And we talked about how spiritual mind treatment is not something you rush into. It takes preparation. You got to sit down. You got to let go of everything. Let your thoughts settle down. Breathe before you start. And then when you're done, you don't just get up and run into the world. No, you sit there. You know, like when you open a good, expensive bottle of red wine, you don't just drink it right away. Let it breathe. So there's a mindfulness and a spaciousness in doing spiritual mind treatment. And then the cliffhanger came. I asked the question, what exactly are you praying or treating about? In other words, what's the purpose of your spiritual mind treatment? Because the outcome you have in mind is going to influence the words and the feeling of your spiritual mind treatment. Now, don't you know, I've been waiting several weeks before dealing with this question, what is the purpose of your spiritual mind treatment? Because I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page and we all understand that the whole treatment is important. Not just the part where you get what you want. You know, where you get what the goal is. Because, you know, that's the part people want to go straight to. I want to go directly to that. I want this, I want that, I want this. You know, the goal, the outcome, the purpose. That's the part that gets all the attention. And yes, it is important to know what the purpose is, but no more important than any other part of the spiritual mind treatment. The whole treatment is an organic process. It's made up of equally important parts. So let's have a look at that. Now, you ought to know this phrase by heart by now. You've got to take time every day, twice a day, to settle down, to sit, and to let go of everything. Oh, that's very important. Oh, it's so important to get that right. I would say that the rest of the spiritual mind treatment depends on that. You know, if you don't get that right, then you take the anxiety and the worry into the treatment. Oh, no, you have to sit down for a moment. I can't just jump right in and start telling the universe what I want. I mean, I suppose you can. It's just rude. I got a lovely email from a colleague, you know, and it said, "Dear Edward, comma, new paragraph. How are you? Question mark." I went, oh my gosh, she realizes I'm another human being. Because sometimes, you know, you open an email, right to the business. You know, if you don't do your treatment like that. You got to get that part right. And then you begin to fill your mind with thoughts about the divine. Oh, this is very important. You've got to get that right. You have got to get that right with you. You've got to know what you're dealing with. And you've got to believe what you're saying. You've got to feel it. I would say you can't go on to the next part until you get this right for you. So take your time. Think about God. You know, you're thinking about the infinite, so you've got infinity. Don't rush. Talk to yourself about the divine. And then at some point, you begin to go on to the next step where you think about your own relationship to the divine. Oh, again, this is very important to get right for you. I would say that the entire spiritual mind treatment depends on you really getting your relationship to the divine sorted out. And by that, I mean your oneness with the great all that is. So take your time. Sense it. Sense the presence of the one mind flowing through you as you. Don't rush. One of my early teachers said to me, you know, if you get this right, if you really get this right, you don't need anything else. It's a standalone practice. Do that every day, twice a day. Oh, you're going to do well. Practically speaking, though, often we pray for very specific reasons. You know, we have a definite purpose in mind. And that's important information to know what my purpose is, because it's going to affect each treatment. And then each treatment will be different in tone and form. For example, a treatment about health and vitality is going to be different in tone from a treatment about peaceful sleep. One is going to use power, energetic words. The other one's going to use calm and peaceful words. Oh, it's so good. I mean, think about it like this. You're going on an outing. So you prepare yourself based on what kind of outing it is. Now, if you're going to the beach to swim, you prepare one way. You pack certain things. If you're going to go to the plaza to shop, you pack different things. You know? Going to a lecture at college, it's got one mood. Going to a surprise birthday party, it's got a different mood. Now, you can't just have one standard backpack and expect it will be suitable for every adventure. No. I mean, you're not, as far as I know, you're not going to need the swimsuit to go shopping at the plaza. And so on. And that is how it is with spiritual mind treatment. So we are to get very clear on our destination. What am I treating for? Where am I going with this? What do I want? Because it's going to help me pack the right things in my bag. And by the right things, I mean the right words and the right feelings. So before you even start out the door with spiritual mind treatment, it's very important to get clear in your thinking. What is my intended outcome? So let's use something in your life right now for an example. Think of something that you would like prayer for. Could be something that is stressful right now. Think about a problem maybe in your life or just a situation that's challenging you. And take your time. Just think about it. Because I'm going to ask you to call that situation, the problem. And once you've identified it, now we can move on. I'm going to ask you to think about what you want instead of that situation. Because that's your purpose for your spiritual mind treatment. That's what you're going to be treating about. And if you're like me, you may have noticed that it is easier to describe what is wrong than it is to describe what I want. I'll say I want this, and I keep on reverting to what is wrong, as if I explain enough about what is wrong that it'll somehow get me to what I want. We have prayer in the Grinton Chapel just out there after service, where prayer practitioners sit and they do spiritual mind treatment for people, and we ask them to prepare by identifying their desired outcome, the purpose. Because, it's not therapy. It's just a 5-minute focused spiritual mind treatment. That's why we ask people to identify the solution they have in mind, the outcome they have in mind. Because you don't have to describe the problem to the one praying. It's probably better that you don't spend any more time than you already have spent on the problem. You don't want to enroll the person praying into the problem's solidness. No, you probably have given that enough time, and you want to enroll them in the solution. And this is where it can get a little tricky. You and I want to practice describing the desired outcome in our own mind with as much feeling as we use when we are describing the problem. So let's go through some examples. We'll use 3 imaginary people and 3 situations maybe you relate to one or 2 of them. Person number 1 says, I'm worried about finances and I don't seem to have enough to make ends meet. That's the situation. Person number 2 says, I feel lonely and I'm ready for companionship, but I don't want to get into the dating process. That's the situation. Person number 3 says, things at home have been tense and our family is not communicating well, and I'm worried about the impact it is having on my kids' progress at school. That's the situation. And then we're going to ask each one of these imaginary people to ask themselves, what do you want instead? And a little pro tip. Be accurate, but also try to be brief. Try to just get to the point. Maybe just a word or a short phrase or a short sentence. For example, I'm worried about finances and I don't seem to have enough to make ends meet. Ask that person, what do you want instead? And perhaps they'll come up with something like financial security. Person number 2, I feel lonely and I'm ready for companionship. What do you want instead? Maybe they would come up with something like companionship. It's that simple. Person number 3, things at home have been tense, and you ask them, what do you want instead? They might say, harmony in my home. That's the purpose of each treatment. Whew. Now let's take it a step further, even deeper. I'm going to ask each one of these people to imagine that it's just sometime in the future, very near future. I'm going to ask them to imagine that this has happened, the outcome has taken place. So person number 1 got a job and is now financially secure. Person number 2 got the partner he or she dreamed of and has companionship. Person number 3 is feeling the harmony at home. Things are just moving along beautifully. I'm going to ask each person, imagine yourself in that situation as the person living that out. What would you be feeling? Well, here's some examples of what they might say. Person number 1 might say, well, when I imagine myself having financial security, I feel confident, safe, peaceful. Person number 2 might say, when I imagine myself as having that companionship, the feelings that come up are connectedness, happiness, joyfulness. Person number 3 might say, when I imagine my home filled up with harmony, what comes up is harmonious feelings, loving kindness. That is how you bring the authentic feeling for your treatment into focus. Now you know what to pack in your bag. Yes, you're going to be doing a treatment about financial security, and you're going to be using words such as confidence, safety, and peace. Yes, you're going to be doing a treatment about companionship, and you're going to be using such words as connected, happy, and joyful. Yes, you're going to be doing a treatment about harmony in the home, and you're going to be using such words as harmonious, loving, and kind. That's how you do it. So let's take number 3 and turn it into example. I'm going to imagine I am person number 3, and I'm doing a treatment about harmony in my home. I know that's my purpose. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take time to be still, to relax my body, let my thoughts still. I'll take some time doing this. Might even observe my breathing for a while. I'm not going to rush into it. I want to find all the little places in my being where tension hide. Let it go so I can be as available as possible. And then at some point, I'm going to begin to fill my mind with thoughts about the divine, using the words harmony, love, and kindness as much as I can. So I might talk to myself silently and say such things as, for example, there is only one perfect love. It is divinity. Only one, no other. And it is the source of all love, of all harmony, of all kindness. And I'll keep on talking to myself like that until I feel like I've got that down. Then I'm going to begin to think about my relationship to the divine, and I'm going to use the words harmony, love, and kindness as much as I can. I might say, I am made in the image and likeness of the divine. And its presence in me is my ability to love. It in me is the source, the place I draw upon for kindness. And I'm going to stay with that until I feel this unity. And then, at some point, without rushing, I'm going to move into the next step, where I'm going to describe to myself the spiritual truth about that purpose I identified. I'll take some time. I might say, the divine is present in me and in my family as the power that connects us easily and effortlessly through love. That is there. I might say to myself, I realize that there is a natural inclination in me towards loving kindness. And it expresses easily and effortlessly, and it connects me to everyone in my family. So I'm describing the spiritual truth of my purpose. I might say, I embody kindness, and I express it in my family. I feel love, and I express it in my family. I am the channel through which divine harmony flows, and I just keep on that. I'm not worried about how things look. I'm trying to get to the spiritual truth. And then at some point, I should start to feel the feels. Oh, I call this rejoicing. I might say to myself, I celebrate this new awareness I have about my family. I feel truly grateful for this shift in my consciousness, for knowing this truth about my family. And then I got to let it all go. I got to release it, I might say to myself something like, I let go and I let God flow through me, or something like that. I might say, Amen. I might say, and so it is. I could even say, I release my word. Whatever I say to feel complete, and then I'm not done. And then I sit there. I sit with what I've said. I want to feel the completeness of my spiritual mind treatment. I want to feel the realization. You notice that each treatment is complete and deals with one topic. So it has a lot of integrity. It's not a shopping list. Another pro tip. When talking about spiritual mind treatment, try this on. Instead of saying, I'm treating for harmony in my home, instead of saying, I'm treating for companionship, instead of saying, I'm treating for financial security, take that word for and replace it with the word about. I'm treating about financial security. I'm treating about companionship. I'm treating about harmony in my home. Oh, see that? I'm not treating for something. The difference is very subtle because the word for places the result out there as something to attain, whereas the word about brings it really close as something that already is. And spiritual mind treatment is the process I go through to get my consciousness expanded enough to accept it, to accept what is spiritually true. I'm aligning my thinking with that truth. I'm not begging for anything. I'm not asking for anything. I'm accepting something. I'm getting clear on something. Now I'm going to say that again because it is very important to know the difference. I am not asking for anything. I'm not treating the universe or God like a vending machine. I'm looking to change my mind from there to there to there, to grow in acceptance and in awareness, to accept a bigger picture for my life and for myself and for my family, one in which harmony and peace in the family is as real to me as my breathing is. I can see it in my mind's eye. I can feel it. I know it. No matter what it looks like on the outside, in my spiritual mind treatment, I want to be clear. And that is why Dr. Ernest Holmes says that spiritual mind treatment is not well-wishing. It is not hoping. It is not sending thoughts and prayers. It's not asking for a blessing. And next week we'll discuss exactly what he means by that. But for now, we'll use that situation that you identified earlier, your problem, for spiritual mind treatment. So I invite you to think now, whatever you came up with, what you want instead. That's your purpose. And taking a breath in, let your eyes close. Begin to let yourself settle down, relax any tension that might be in your body if you can. Notice your breathing. And you might take a little longer on your own, but for this morning, begin to fill your mind with thoughts about the divine in your own words, silently in your own mind. You might be saying something to yourself like, God is the love of all creation. Or you might be saying something like, the mind of creation is everywhere. Each person in their own style. Just take a moment to describe the divine to yourself. And when you're at home, you might spend a little time like that. And then eventually you'll move on to thinking about your relationship to the divine. You might be saying something to yourself quite simple as, the love that God is in me as my love. Or if, you might want to say it like, the everywhere presentness of creation means I am in it. It can be very normal and authentic, and you can even edit your own statements in your mind. So take a moment to think about your relationship to the divine. You might take a little time doing that at home, but for now, I invite you to think about that which you identified, what you want instead. And using your beautiful imagination, imagine that you are the person living in that it has already come to pass. See in your mind's eye, or if you prefer, feel what it feels like to be that person who lives in the world where that has already taken place. And then silently describe yourself in this new reality and try to get a warm feeling of clarity about it. And then we move into the step that I called rejoicing or thanksgiving. Usually the step just emerges by itself as you start to feel the warmth of doing this work. But you can also help it along by saying such things as, I celebrate this awareness. You might even say, I rejoice in what I have seen, in what I have accepted. I give thanks for this new awareness, something like that. Or you could just silently feel gratitude. And then there will come the time to let it all go. And you will say something to yourself to indicate that. You might even say, Amen. Or you might say, and so it is. Or you might say, I release this word. Or you might say, I let go and I let God. Or you might say all of those things. And then you sit. And you feel the completeness of your spiritual mind treatment. And then at the right time, you'll take a deep breath in like this. You'll sigh. And then you'll look out at the world and decide what you'll do next.